We're here at a very sunny Snetterton, end of the first day of TCR UK action with a very exciting qualifying and race one complete, but things aren't quite done. As Driven Minds has organised a track walk around the Snetterton 300 circuit, so I thought we'll come along, have a little bit of a chat about this iconic circuit and crucially my home track where I've spent many a year watching motorsport action. So come with me and let's have a wander. So we arrive at turn one, which is Richie's, a medium speed corner, so very important to carry the speed through the corner and out of it. It's probably just about slow enough to send one up the inside, but that's not always so easy. We've seen it end in tears. Also, when it does go wrong, you often see cars flying off out wide into the farmers' fields, which is very much an entertaining sight. You've seen it plenty of time over the years on the BTCC. You also have seen them cars run wide and then spear to the right, which can be quite a scary one because you're going so quick through a corner like this. And once again, it's important to carry the speed out of the corner because we're then onto quite a short straight but an important part of the track. We're now at turn two, the first of two hairpins on the circuit, the Wilson hairpin this one, and a very important corner as it's a great opportunity to overtake with it being such a slow corner. Like I said, obviously making it very important to get a good exit out of turn one. What I suppose is most famous about this corner is what used to be behind me over there in the trees, what was known as the old scary tree. Look it up if you've not seen it, obviously. But it got destroyed a few years back in a storm, and I think it's very much missed by both fans and people that work here at Snet. But we'll carry on into the infield section. As we now head into the infield section of the track, the section of the 300 layout which was added when the circuit was redeveloped, we head into Palmer, which again is another kind of medium speed corner, quite quick. It's quite difficult to send one up the inside here. It's a very important corner on the circuit though, as you can really gain and lose a lot of time. A great example of this was in the first TCR UK race earlier. Brad Hutchinson was holding off Callum Newsham as they battled for third. He had a very big slide through this medium speed corner, and Callum got a great run on him because of that going into the next corner. Brad, luckily for him, did hold on, but he did lose a lot of time, and that was obviously a real kind of nervy moment for him. I actually interviewed Brad after his P3 podium finish, so go check that video out on the channel once you finish watching this one, obviously. We arrive now at the second hairpin on the circuit, the Agostini hairpin. Yet again, another great overtaking opportunity. Like the previous corner, coming out of it, you've got to get a good exit and a great opportunity to send one down the inside. And it's great, a great corner for spectators. You've got the mound over there, always provides good racing, especially in tin-top machinery. So the next corner is Hamilton. In my opinion, probably one of the most difficult corners on the track. You've got to be very tight on the inside because it does tighten up more than you think. You can see some tyre scrapes actually on that barrier. People really pushing the limit, which you get more so in touring car racing, a bit more robust. Like I said, nice and tight on this inside curb because as much as we look like we've got lots of space here, it does tighten up very quickly. And why it is so difficult, it is satisfying when you get it right. You've got this outside curb here. You see a lot of drivers running out wide. You get to the end of a lap, they think, great lap. What they're doing is running out on this outside curb. And even on the grass, you can see lots of tyre marks here, which Jonathan Palmer won't like his grass getting messed up. But you see cars running out wide here, gaining an advantage, and then it sets off a sensor indicating they've exceeded track limits, and actually a photograph gets taken. So when they go to the stewards and be like, why was my lap taken away? They will just print out the picture and show them and be like, there you go. So constantly trying to prevent track limit kind of situations, which we tend to get more so in qualifying when everyone's really pushing the limit, and this corner is a real tricky example of that. We've just discussed how difficult Hamilton, the previous corner, is with how tight it gets, and obviously the track limit difficulties. You get thrown straight into this quite short straight. Obviously it's going to be important to get a good exit, and then straight away you're into Auggies, which is another difficult corner. As there's quite a few different lines you can take. You can, if you're battling with someone, you can risk sending a nose up the inside. You're then probably not going to get quite as good exits, so there's a bit of strategy that comes into it as well. My sort of memory of this part of the track, especially the infield, is thinking back to 2013 BTCC. It's my first weekend of going to a touring car race where it all started, and Jason Plato was driving for MG back in the day, and he had a massive role here, and that's a real memory that sticks out for me, seeing a big puff of smoke and dust as it happens. So yeah, a very tricky part of the track, and a reason I think some drivers don't get on so well with Snetterton is it's very start-stop, and it kind of contrasts with the likes of Thruxton, for example. Now arrived at Williams, another difficult corner in my opinion, as it's medium speed once again, and as crucial, probably even more so than the other corners, you've got to get a good exit, because we then head onto the longest straight in British motorsport, the Bentley straight, which we'll get onto in a minute. I'm just sat next to here. Any BTCC fan will recognise these getting not so much sat here peacefully like we are now, but getting flung into the air. Again, a method of trying, and not often succeeding, of trying to prevent track limit offences, but 9 times out of 10 they're flying through the air, as 20 British touring cars are flying through trying to battle for position. So we're just about halfway down the Bentley straight, and you'll see from all these lines here the remains of quite a big accident that took place in the Ford Fiesta race, one of the support races to the TCR UK. Another sign of that, of these big tyre marks screeching down the circuit. What happened? You obviously have very big grids in the series like the Fiesta Juniors, and it was early stages on, so everyone was bunched up, still cold tyres, being front wheel drive, and unfortunately they just ran out of space. Although Snetterton's one of the longest circuits in the UK, it still gets tight at times, and especially when there's big grids, people get bunched up. And unfortunately, the car involved sort of swerved from one way to the next, and that's easier said than done to control. As he speared off, exited stage left here onto the grass, and you can see there's tyre marks still on the grass here. It didn't look like it was going to be too bad of an accident, just obviously some initial contact that sent him off over here. But unfortunately, like we see quite a lot, we saw it in the minis a few weeks back at Donington Park with Albert Webster having a big rollover. The car dug in on this quite long grass and ultimately gave him a lot more momentum, barrel rolling him, flipping him over several times, and that was a very expensive end to the day here at Snetterton. So it just shows, as much as the tight technical section of the corners of the infield is very difficult, there's still other challenges on a circuit like this that can provide, especially with big grids. We've finally just about reached the end of the Bentley straight. You can hear people leaving over the iconic Snetterton Bridge here at the end of the day. But some great BTCC moments happening here over the year. First of all, last season, a pretty recent one, was Jake Hill going 2 wheels on the grass, overtaking his teammate Colin Turkington just down there on that bit of track, grass more so, that you've just seen. But as we dive under the massive bridge, obviously this is the part of the circuit where the cars are going to be going at their quickest, so more cars going over, but no matter what the next corner was, it was always going to be a tricky one, because they're going the quickest they will at any part of the circuit. Now, another moment that for this part of the track really stands out for me is probably one of my favourite BTCC races, certainly one of the ones I've been at live, and that is race 3 in 2019. You had Ash Sutton in the Subaru, Jason Plato in the Powermax Vauxhall Astra. Those two have been battling and taking chunks out of each other all race, diving up the inside, pushing each other deep, and it got to boiling point. They both sort of held each other up coming out of Williams, like we said earlier, a very important corner. You need to get a good exit. They were both slowed down the straight. They went side by side, but then all of a sudden, Rory Butcher pulled out to make it 3 wide. He was in the RCIB AMD Honda Civic, the older Honda. He made it 3 wide because he was a lot quicker on the straight compared to the both of them. He slipped through and he went on to win the race. But Ash Sutton and Jason Plato took each other out. I'd say more so Jason Plato. He used some of his old tactics as he hit the Subaru Levorg sideways and into a spin, which is pretty easy to do. And you could say it was inevitable after how aggressive the battle was. But it's not surprising when you come down here, you look again, one of the iconic floppy markers, which especially in that race didn't last long. But once again, the circuit really tightening up, and I think a really challenging section of track, because crucially you can't be too straight on the braking. You can brake a little bit, but then you are turning in, and again you can just see this is Brundle, this part of the corner. This is where it all kicked off, because we go from a lovely nice wide bit of straight track to then quite a tight corner here, so it's not surprising it went wrong really, but then it goes a little bit of straight, so then you can slow it down through an even tighter section of track, which is Nelson, the next corner. So a very challenging section of track, but I would say for those reasons, those iconic moments of just excitement and being trackside, probably one of my favourite parts of the track, just because of how difficult it is. So the next corner, we don't have long to think actually after the challenges of Brundle and Nelson. We've got a little straight to build up speed, and then we've got one of the faster and, again, challenging and rewarding when you get it right corners on the circuit for Bomb Hole. Yes, check Bomb Hole, that's what I said. A very, like I said, challenging, rewarding corner that you've got to keep tight on the inside. You can see the difference actually on the track, how much darker it is over here on the inside compared to the outside here. Everyone, you want to be nice and tight to maximise the speed. Again, making use of the large amounts of curb and maybe a little bit more of curb. There's quite a few different stories of the reasoning for this corner being known as the bomb hole. People comparing it to like a bomb kind of going off here with the big dip, which you'll see on your screens now here, with how much it dips in. And some people say Norfolk's completely flat. I can see a little bit of a hill there. But I'd heard that the reason they call it this is because of its challenging nature for the bike racers back in the day, how they compared it to being a pain in the... I'll let you finish that. So therefore they sort of thought, well, what does that sound like? They thought bomb hole. And I guess it fits well with the whole kind of bomb going off idea. So this is the sort of more faster part of the circuit. Obviously the start of it and the infield section's very slow and start-stop. Now things, you really start to open up your car and go a bit quicker, which is a nice change compared to the rest of the lap, and even more so, it shows you need a good all-round car. You need to be a good all-round driver to succeed here. We're now at the penultimate corner on the circuit, and yet again, another tricky section of track, Corum, or the Corum curve as it used to be. A very fast and sweeping corner that just keeps on turning around. It sets you up into Murray's, which is the final corner. We'll have a chat about that when we get there. But it's really challenging because it's super quick coming out of a bomb hole and that section of track, but obviously you've got straights coming into it, and this is obviously very quick coming down here. But where it makes it really challenging is it's so easy to run out of road. You're obviously going very quickly, like I said, and you get to this bit up here, just beyond that curve where those two little markers are that, like I said earlier, very much at risk of getting flung into the air by tin top racing drivers. But you can see, you can imagine drivers carrying in a lot of speed. They're coming in wide and going tight, but actually this corner really tightens up over there. And we've seen cars go off before. You think back to BTCC qualifying last year, there was some oil or something down around about here, and we had loads of cars flying off, which obviously was a pretty scary moment at the time. I think back to Tom Chilton in 2019 here. I think it was the first race of the day, he had a puncture and went straight on here, which I imagine as a driver is pretty scary. But once again, they're brave, and you want to carry through as much speed as you can heading into the final corner, which is Murray's, which is over there. Now at the final corner on the circuit, which is Murray's. Like I said, very challenging one, is leading in from the Corum curve there, really fast, and then tightens up all of a sudden, and that just continues going into Murray's. Like again, MSV doing a great job with the spectating grandstands there, always seeing good action, and we always treat it to a nice big screen over there for the bigger events to see the action. And this corner has actually changed a bit over the years. It used to be much more of a chicane. It makes my original thought of that older version of the corner. I was thinking back to BTCC 2006 kind of time. Matt Neal in the Honda Integra, the Halfords car, which was rapidly quick. He won the championship that year. And Jason Plato in the Seat. They had an amazing battle, very, very argy-bargy, which started way back there in the lap, coming out of the Brundle and Nelson section, having contact through the bomb hole. And then it completely ended in tears on the final corner. They took each other out here. They speared across the track. They both went off. And Matt Neal, well, really had the pace to him that race, so he was very disappointed. Jason Plato just got about away with it. But Matt Neal ended up stopping there and ended up down in 8th, which obviously was very frustrating for both of them, to be fair. But for me as a fan, it was great action, which we do love here. But yeah, Murray's final corner, you can see actually here, it might be difficult to see with the sun, a massive sausage curb here on the inside. It's easier said than done, but you really don't want to take it because you could just see how much of a step up it is, and especially touring cars can take that kind of abuse really, because they have to do it round the likes of Knock Hill. They have to make use of that curb. But you think you're in an open wheel car, or for supercars, which long-term viewers will know how much I cover them, but you don't want to be running over that because you're on the ground and you're going to feel every bump of that sausage curb. So Murray's is a super important corner, like so many others, to get a good exit, because really in qualifying this is where your lap starts, because you want to get a good exit out of here and then up the centre straight, which you can see, believe it or not, because I know we are in Norfolk, but there is an ever so slight raise up as we head up the straight to finish the lap. So end of the lap here on the Snetterton 300 circuit. It's been great to talk you guys through it. You can say Murray's very much a tight one, and like we were talking about corners earlier, you've got to be careful not to run out wide on track limits, or even worse on the grass. And obviously, like I said earlier, it's a super tight corner, and that actually came into play earlier in the first TCR race. Two cars coming together, making contacts, which happens at a corner like Murray's. But up the centre straight we go. Like I said, a little bit of a hill up. We've got the pit lane entrance here, which is very much busy in the likes of endurance races, where people are stopping to change fuel and tyres, and drivers obviously qualifying sessions when drivers are coming in to make changes. But we head up the straight. You could already start to see the back of the grid slots, where you're on your bigger grids. You'll see cars lining up. And like I said earlier, it's super important to get a good exit out of Murray's, because already you can see it's such a long run up the centre straight, and we've hardly done any of it. We're right at the back of the grid now, like I said, on where cars are starting. And yeah, like I said, even the straights can be challenging at times because the grids get really bunched up. And when I think of that, and probably one of the most iconic moments on this start-finish straight was the final race of the day here in 2016 for the BTCC, where we had a car actually roll and take air and take out a camera tyre on the start-finish straight, which has made it onto many a motorsport crash compilation videos, and a real iconic moment for the series. But that is pretty much it. The Snetterton 300 circuit will always have a very special place in my heart, as it is my home track. I live just a few miles away, and it has been a place where I've been watching motorsport since I was very young, and crucially the last however many years I've been interviewing racing drivers. If you haven't come across the channel yet, welcome. My name's Louis, I'm 18 years old. I interview racing drivers from all your favourite categories in the UK. Plenty of videos on the channel, so go and check them out, and feel free to subscribe if you like this and all the other things I do. Lots of content from the TCR UK racing this weekend, and we're back here at Snetterton for the BTCC rounds next weekend. Will more BTCC history be made here on the 300 circuit? We'll find out then. But until then, I've been your host, Louis Hedge. See you later.